the way the cycle works is students look for a place to stay, something that matches their semesters. So like either from like September to December, or December to April, or September to April, or September to August, right? So like essentially matches how long they have with school. And so making sure that like the seasonality is also taken in consideration into the pricing. Another thing that we also look at is essentially sort of like the demand in general, right? Because if you have a higher demand, and with a higher demand, and which something that's pretty something that's very known today is like the whole housing shortage, right? So then if there's a higher demand, that pushes the price of the property. And so trying to find a way to like essentially accommodate for that for students to make it cheaper for them to find a place to stay off campus. Essentially when it comes to like the pricing itself, it's sort of like it's balanced between the landlord and the students. And so right now we're sort of like testing to see what's the accurate price that we should charge. And so to give like an actual answer, like when I split equally, like split between the landlord and the students. Now there have been instances whereby like it's more on the students than the landlord, and more on the landlord than the students, to make sure that like it balances out. But when it comes to the price itself, the reason behind it is that both benefit from the service that we provide, and making sure that both are charged in a fair manner is what's really important for us. Now, like I said earlier, we're still testing the price to see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and there are many services that we're offering right now that are also like sort of like match the price that we are charging. Yeah, no, the how do I sleep at night? I don't sleep at night. That's what happens. Because it's like you put out one fire and another one comes up and another one comes up, and like it's like, oh man, so you don't sleep. You just hope for the best. But to be honest, the way we see things is with challenges come opportunities, right? One thing that we're seeing a lot is that there is a huge, like, of course, the international student cap that's been put on right now. One is very unfortunate for international students because there are many opportunities here in Canada that many international students can benefit from, and it's unfortunate to see that like there's like a cap. But the reasoning also behind the cap also makes sense in the sense that like with high, it's not just like it's not that it's because of international students, but just like population in general, like higher population put pressure on the housing market. And so with, of course, like right now the amount of housing even available and the pace at which houses are being built is pretty low. And so simple economics, high demand, low supply pushes the price of rent and then becomes more expensive for students, and also for the general population in general. So it makes it a bit more challenging for students to find a place that's affordable for them. And so having that cap sort of like prevents them from finding themselves in a situation whereby if you come in and you come in with the expectation like, oh yeah, I'm gonna live in Canada, it's gonna be cheap, and then you come, then surprise, surprise, it's not. It's not. Rent is on the rise, groceries on the rise, like everything's pretty much on the rise, and inflation is also on the rise. I mean, like we saw that like it recently cooled down to 2.9%, but like we had like the 4 and 5% for the past couple of months. So like pretty much everything is getting more expensive, and so the reality of things is like of course life in Canada is great, but man, it's getting expensive, and so like something to keep in mind when it comes to like that cap. Now, when it comes to sort of like finding that middle ground, to like support the students, and the support the students finding affordable housing, and the landlord finding, like essentially having enough landlords to support those students, that's still a work in progress. We're trying different strategies to sort of like to acquire those landlords that have either like an extra bedroom or an extra like an apartment or even an entire house to rent out to students. And one thing that we're sort of looking into is essentially looking at it as a way. It's not looking at it as a way that you're not necessarily supporting just another tenant or just another just another number, but you're also like making it like a social impact investments, because students contribute. I think the number, correct me if I'm wrong, but the number was that like international students contribute up to like $22 billion a year to the economy, which is huge, right? Like it's crazy, and like it's understated, and so like being able to like support that segment of tenants, like helping the students find a place to stay and helping them in the academy. It's like it's not like I said, you're not just helping like another number, you're helping someone that's gonna contribute to the economy. And so you on like as a landlord, you're not just like helping a tenant, like you're helping the economy. And so it makes sense for you to host a student. And second thing is like students statistically are one of the most reliable tenants to have because one, once they find a place to stay and they're with you, they're more likely to stay with you until the end. Many stay until the end of the tenancy of the school, but they also stay until like after they graduate because they're like, oh yeah, I found this place, I'm comfortable here, why leave? And secondly, um, they are able to sort of like not necessarily afford the rent, but they can cover the rent in the sense that they either have like a student loan because as a student, if you start to go to school, you need to make sure you have everything else covered, right? Like you don't want to find yourself struggling to like afford rent or all the other stuff. And so like you having like, a student loan or the scholarship or the grant, and even like the guarantor helps you cover that rent. And so essentially like bringing those different aspects. Oh, sorry. And the third thing I want to touch on is the fact that many students like you and I, right? Like we are very serious about our studies. And so there's this whole stigma of students being like partying or like being not like keeping the place in a mess and all that stuff. And you'll be surprised, like many students, I'm pretty sure the ones that are looking at this podcast, watching this podcast right now, or listening to the podcast right now, are the serious ones. And they just want to find a place to come and crash, sleep, go back to school after classes, go to the library, study, go back home and crash again. And so you want to they keep the place clean. And so being able to like showcase and portray the students to the landlords that have the extra units available is a win and a benefit for them, but also a benefit for the economy in general. And so essentially using those different like strategies to acquire those landlords and also support your students in the process.